birth name, your real name.
Samuel McKibben.
Samuel M.
M is for McKay.
Okay.
McKibben. B is in Bravo. I-N. And I'm the second. My granddad was the first.
So, just keep this with your stuff, and 100 years from now, when your descendants find this, they'll see that, gosh, you're down there at Portsmouth Public Library. We're going to go down and see old Uncle Sam.
That would be great. The first one was a sergeant in the Civil War.
Your first Sam?
The first Samuel M. McKibben was a sergeant with the Union Army. I assume from northern Ohio, because the family was from Youngstown originally, northeast Ohio.
I see.
My dad was born and grew up in Youngstown. I was born in Youngstown. My mom was born in Byesville, Ohio, grew up in Girard, which is just immediately north of Youngstown. They're both in, Youngstown is Mahoning County, and Girard, I think, is in Trumbull County.
Okay, that's interesting. What is your date of birth?
5/24/38.
And the middle name is McKay.
As Irish or Scots Irish as you can get.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. Sam, you told me your name and birth date, and where were you born? Youngstown?
Youngstown, Ohio.
Okay. And your present address, though, where is that?
Is here in Portsmouth, 2907 Cypress Street.
Okay. How long have you lived there?
1983, almost 18 years. Okay, for sure.
How long have you lived in Portsmouth then?
Let's see. Well, we moved here. My dad was an ATF agent and moved here. He joined the Bureau in 34, I think. Was hired by Elliot Ness originally. And then moved he was transferred from Youngstown to Ironton in 1939. He was a co-agent in charge there when ATF had a bureau there. Then in 44, that's how we got here. He was transferred up here, and he and a gentleman named Howard Harner were the co-agents here from 44 until Dad retired. I think when I was in the service, I come with the Air Force in 56, so somewhere around there. So he was with the Bureau for about 24, 25 years, I guess.
This is ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
It was just the alcohol, tobacco tax unit at that time through the Department of Treasury.
Call it revenuers?
Basically, yeah.
That's what we call revenuers.
Dad went to law school. He was in World War I. He started college in Ohio State in 1915, I believe.
What was his name?
Raymond Johnston McKibben.
Okay.
He practiced, he went to college. He was drafted in 17. He went in the Army. He was a U.S. Army artillery sergeant and spoke fluent German, so he was also an interpreter for the Army for prisoner interrogation quarters, anything they had to negotiate with civilian populace for. Spent a lot of time as an interpreter.
How long was he in the Army?
2 years. Came out in 1919. He went to Ohio State, graduated from the College of Commerce, went directly into law school, and was a classmate of Chester Fitch's.
Is that right? Chester Fitch would be a local attorney we're talking about.
Yes, Jim's dad. And they graduated in 24. Dad went back to Youngstown, had a partner, Ed Miller. They were law partners from 24 till 34, I guess. And he and Mom got married in 31, and then he joined the Bureau, joined the Treasury Department in 34.
And then 34, and then what happened? They moved. You were born in 38.
I was born in 38 in Youngstown.
You have any brothers and sisters?
I have one sister.
Okay. What's her name?
Her name's Carol. Carol McKibben Pettibone.
Where does she live?
Lives in Newark.
Okay.
And she was 3 years younger. She was born in Ironton.
She's 3 years younger than you, so she was born in Ironton.
During the time when Dad was the agent there in Ironton.
So when you were born in Youngstown, you don't remember anything about Youngstown?
No, I was only about a year old when he was transferred to Ironton, so we took the train from Youngstown down to Ironton, but we took the train about everywhere in those days. Most people did.
Did you grow up in Ironton?
The first 5 years, yeah. 1 year in Youngstown, and then we moved here in 44, the spring of 44, just in time, as I recall. It must have been It must have been the late spring or early summer of 44 when we moved to 1216 Kenny's Lane, which is where Worcester's pharmacy parking lot is now. And it was a rental right on the alley. And we lived there from 44. I started school in 45. We lived across the street then in 1949 to 1219 Kenny's Lane. So I was just hop, skip, and jump in school.
Is that where you went to school?
Yeah, 8 years there and 4 years PHS. In the service the first time, out, GI Bill, college, graduated OU. Had 25 years in between military service hitches. I got out in 1960, back in the reserves. I was in the Navy Reserve in 1985 when I got a call from Navy Recruiting Area 4, who I talked to months before. And the fellow called me up and he said, Chief Max, I knew was military, and he said, we were considering you for a position as public affairs officer with Navy Recruiting Area 4. And I wasn't sure if he was talking military or civilian because I thought, well, that's 43, 44 years old. And I was 44. And
it's been about 1980.
85. All of 85. Yeah, I was 45. And I just turned 45 in May. And he said, no, I said, you can come back in as chief petty officer. Well, they never do this. And if you come back in out of the reserve, you always lose one grade. You make it back usually in about a year. But they've been without a public affairs officer for a long time. So they brought me back in October of 85. What they call temporary active duty. It turned into a 4-year military assignment, best military job I ever had. So that gave it 8 years active, 21 years reserve, and then got me a military retirement.
Okay, interesting.
Worked out well. 29 years altogether.
Now, let's just then say what your occupation is. What do you do now?
Basically, news and public affairs director for WNXT and WNXT FM.
Those are local radio stations. How long have you been in that particular career?
Probably started in Lake Charles, Louisiana in 1959 when I was still in the Air Force the first time. Got into business as a young disc jockey of about 18 years old, and then when I was discharged in 1960, came back here and went to work for local radio stations. And other than 4 additional years in the military, that's been my career.
How much education do you have?
4 years at Ohio University and about 1/3 of a master's degree at Ohio State.
Okay. And would that be in like communications?
My BSc is in communications from Ohio University. The MA,
when did you graduate?
1972.
Okay.
And I'm working on an MA, which I'm trying to get established at Marshall University to finish up. So it looks like there's some teaching.
Great. Now, are you married, single?
Yes, of course, I'm married.
Okay, what is your wife's name?
My wife's name is Jeanette Marie McKibben.
Okay, and how many children do you have?
We have no children.
Your father's, let's go back to your father. Mm-hmm. You told me his name. Tell me that.
Raymond Johnston McKibben.
Okay, and he was an ATF man or a revenuer, and he was hired by Elliot Ness. And we might say that Elliot Ness was a famous FBI guy.
He was in the FBI. He was in the alcohol and tobacco tax unit. He was a treasury agent. I don't know if he was ever in the FBI. It may have been. He was basically hired to basically go to Chicago and try to do something about organized crime, which did include, of course, the Capone Empire. And Elliot Ness. And he, of course, did manage to do the lead investigation, and eventually Al Capone was jailed for tax evasion.
Now, what was your mother's name?
Mother's name was Martha Elizabeth Cash McKibben.
Cash being her maiden name.
Cash was her maiden name.
Now, do you remember or do you know her parents' names?
Their names were, my maternal grandfather was Hamilton Cash, and my maternal grandmother, I'm trying to remember her first name. It's an unusual name.
Another big test.
No, I'm sorry.
If it pops in your mind, do you know her maiden name? If that pops in your mind, just word it down.
Okay, I will. Yes, I'm trying to remember. I should have the information ready, but I don't have that.
Now, were they from Youngstown area? Or?
They were all from Ohio, originally from Guernsey County, around
Guernsey County.
Cambridge area. We used to have a family farm in Old Washington, which is on US 40, just east of Cambridge.
Yeah. Now, your dad's parents' names.
My grandfather, that's easy. He was Samuel M. McKibben the first, and my paternal grandmother's first name was Margaret. And what her maiden name was, I cannot tell you. I think it was McMaster, but I'm not positive.
Do you know any names before then? Greats.
That would go back on grandpa's side to Northern Ireland. He emigrated from there in the late 19th century.
Okay. So that would be a Northern Ireland, that would be your great or great?
That would be actually my grandfather.
That's your grandfather?
He was born in Ballymena in... I'm not sure what county that is, but one of the 6 northern counties called Ulster in Northern Ireland.
Now, which one was in the Civil War?
That would have been an uncle who had apparently come to this country beforehand. My granddad came here. Samuel M. came here in about 1887, as I recall the story, as a young man. He actually was born during the American Civil War in 1863, so he was about 24, 25 years old when he came here in the mid to late 1800s.
He followed some family members.
He followed some family members, and that would have probably been one of his uncles.
Okay.
Would have been a Union Army sergeant during the Civil War.
Now, did you enlist? Were you drafted?
I enlisted right after high school in 1956. We graduated on the 31st of May, and 6 weeks later I was in Lackland Air Force Base in Texas.
San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio. Garden Spot of the Earth.
Right. That's where you did your basic
training.
Where did you go after that?
Afterwards, I was sent to Electronic Fundamental School in Keysburg Air Force Base, Biloxi, Mississippi. Was there for a year. After that, was sent to Lake Charles Air Force Base, Lake Charles, Louisiana, later renamed after the Flying Tiger General Claire Chennault. It became Chennault Air Force Base in 1958. I worked in supply primarily. They were pretty well equipped with electronic technicians, and I didn't get to do very much of that. And they had openings in supply, and I was a supply corporal. Then until I joined, then became a fuel specialist for the Air Force. This was all within the Strategic Air Command. And refueled aircraft. We refueled primarily bombers. It was a SAC base. It was primarily B-47s, and then later on we got B-52s, and then the refueling tankers, KC-97s.
I see. Okay. Now, how long were you there, Lake Charles?
I was there about 3.5 years.
Were you discharged from the
Yes. I was also in England with the bomb wing that I was a member of, 806th Combat Support Squadron, actually.
Was that like temporary duty from Lake Charles?
Yes. I was TDY from Lake Charles to Bryce Norton Royal Air Force Base in very near Cheltenham, England, for about, we were there for 100 days, from late 57 to early 58.
When were you discharged from the Air Force?
July 17, 1960.
1960. So that'd be a little bit before the Cuban thing, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Now, when the Cuban Missile Crisis occurred, did you get orders or anything?
I was in active reserve from 1960. I was actually inactive until 62. And then was completely out of the military, reserve inactive until 1969. Then decided that it would be a good idea to carve out at least a reserve military career, and I did that
with the Navy,
with the Air Force Reserve initially.
Okay.
1969 until 1976. Then the local Navy recruiter offered me a chance to be promoted and also become a journalist strictly in the Naval Reserve. Did that on June 12th, 1976, and then was either active duty or reserve duty from then until I retired in 1998.
When you got out of the Air Force the first time, what was your rank?
E3, they're in the same class.
Then when you finally retired from the Navy once and for all for military, what was your rank?
Retired as a chief journalist, E7.
Okay. And were you, while you were with the Navy, were you on active duty at any time?
Yes, I was on active duty from October 28th, 85 until November 29th of 1989. 4 years, 1 month, 1 day.
Why is that? Was that something you chose to do?
Yes. I had talked to Navy Recruiting Area 4 in Columbus, Federal Building downtown in May of that year. I was in broadcasting and didn't appear to be going anywhere with that particular part of my life, so I inquired to perhaps go back on active duty, and it took about 5 months to seal the deal, and was called mid-October of 85, and 2 weeks later I was a chief journalist / public affairs officer for Navy Recruiting Area 4 downtown Columbus.
Okay. How long were you in Columbus?
4 years.
Okay. Did you go overseas other than the stint, the 100 days in England? Did you ever go overseas? After that, did you like the service? Did you like the military?
I think if I had done to do it over, John, I probably would have stayed in the military the first time.
All the way through?
Yes, there were some extenuating circumstances. I think as a young military person, I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to start and finish a college degree. I was still waiting for the GI Bill. They finally passed the Montgomery GI Bill in '66, and there were some romantic considerations there too. I was dating a girl back here at the time. So, and the fact that rank was in the peacetime Air Force in the late '50s, there was a reduction in force in '58. Rank was pretty well frozen. If I had made 1 or 2 more stripes, if I had been either a buck sergeant E4 or a staff sergeant E5, which I later became, I might well have stayed. Did not choose to do that at that time.
Okay. Well, are you a member of any veterans organizations?
Member of Post 471, American Legion.
And that's up the street here, isn't it?
Yeah,
Russell Williams? Okay.
Russell Williams.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you keep in touch with any of the military friends that you made over the years? Or?
Some, especially from the latter years with the Navy. My boss, Lieutenant Fred Grimm, now Commander Fred Grimm, is also pushing toward his retirement years. He's more or less, I think, just doing the correspondence courses and keeping his 50 points a year that way until he retires in 20 years. He's commander, lives and pastors a church in northeast Ohio. Some of the people that I was in public affairs and marketing with at Navy Recruiting Area 4, which no longer exists. That's one reason I left in '89. Basically went out of business.
Well, while you were in the military, did you ever meet anyone famous? I mean, sometimes people in that circle, they meet a famous admiral or general or show business person.
2 or 3 CNOs, Chief of Naval Operations, I had a chance to meet and talk with at Ohio State and also in Washington, D.C. We had 8 Navy recruiting districts, so we were in cars and airplanes quite a bit. Usually a good week or 2 out of the month we would be traveling someplace. I had 24 advertising specialists who worked directly or indirectly for me, so I was always seeing them or talking to them on the phone or seeing them in person or asking them different questions and why did they run that ad when they should have run this ad, more or less being the majority whip, I guess, of the Navy Recruiting Area Board.
Okay. Well, is there Sam, anything else you want to say or talk about?
Well, we do the Memorial Day replaying ceremony every year on behalf of the Southern County Memorial Day Association, and we will do that Memorial Day again this year, and certainly enjoy extracurricular activities, anything the military it gets involved with. If I can help out, I certainly am willing to talk to a young person, male or female, high school grad, college grad, up to about age 34. They can usually still get into the military and carve out a career. I enjoy it. I still enjoy it. And as far as being a sort of a retired eccentric to just really tell people that this country of ours is great primarily because of the people that are in it and because of the military people who have served this country well, and many have given their lives for this country. And I hope that we're never reticent to do that again if the time should come.
You have a pin there on your lapel. What is that? That's
basically Fleet Reserve Association. That's retired USN, and basically in the Fleet Reserve Association, they more or less lobby for members of the Sea Service, the Navy, the Coast Guard, and Marine Corps.
You consider yourself more of a Navy man than an Air Force man?
Probably in recent years now. I've since affiliated with the Ohio Military Reserve, and I do public affairs for them on a very somewhat part-time basis. But we are an adjunct to the Ohio National Guard, and that's a quasi-military organization. We're only sanctioned by the governor to serve within the borders of the state in case we're needed. And that's probably not going to happen very often, but it's well to be prepared just in case.
You said you were in the recruiting office too. Is that where you actually get the guys in?
Yes.
And that sort of thing?
Yeah, it was a rather involved procedure involving what we call a leads tracking center. The Navy uses what they call blind ads, classified ads, to attract possible recruits to the military, and when that young person calls a toll-free number, it used to be 1-800. Call the number on hand. I thought I'd never forget that 1-800. Whatever, 228-1234, I think was we used that for years. We used that for years and years. And then that person would be whatever the area code and whatever the state he or she called from would automatically go to the nearest leads tracking center, LTC called. And then they would be qualified by the advertising specialist or the lead tracking employee on duty, usually an enlisted person, sometimes a civilian, and that young man or young woman would talk to his or her counterpart on the phone there, and he or she would then be qualified or not qualified by asking. We had a standard script of about 30 questions, and qualified as far as high school diploma grad, as far as you were allowed to have a couple of misdemeanors, no felonies as a general rule, depending on the circumstances, college graduate, community college graduate, just the basic things you probably would fill out in an employment form or in a census form or something like that, just to find out what if a person was actually a potential recruit for the United States military. That was the enlisted side.
Okay, and now out of, say, 10 contacts, how many would you be successful with?
We like to have our lead centers come up with, say, 10 contacts. We would like to at least get 3 persons to at least agree to an interview with a recruiter, and then you'd be expected to close at least one of those.
Okay.
Not unlike the insurance exam.
Okay. Sure. So 10% would be an acceptable rate?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we were competing with the other services, private industry, community colleges, all the UBRI and people like that, who are all after those same young people as they get out of college.
Were you in during the period that overlaps when I guess the way I want to put it, more of an aggressive attempt to get women into the service?
We were just beginning to attract women when I was still in the reserves in the mid-70s. I had several assignments at Norfolk Naval Station, and that was the time when the Navy was just assigning women to non-combative ships. They were on the Spartanburg County, as I recall, and 1 or 2 other supply ships. No combat ships. They now are on all ships, except submarines. They're not on submarines. But we were putting women onto non-combative vessels, and yes, there was a concerted effort to get more women to join the service. There still is.
Did it make recruiting easier? I mean, you would have a larger pool.
Somewhat. Okay. Part of my job was to also assist with the officer recruiting, and we did that on a limited basis because we were always trying to get professional doctors, physician's assistants, nurses, podiatrists, you can just run the gamut of the healthcare provider professions, and they were tough, especially nurses.
Well, nurses were bad.
Very tough, very tough. We had to raise the age range. I think when I got there in the mid '80s we were dissuading nurses older than 34.
Really?
And by the time I left 4 years later, I think we were taking some men and ladies in their early 40s.
My daughter's in a nursing program out of Votech, and she'll have her LPN. Plans on going a little further.
She'll be getting letters.
She will?
Oh, yes. Part of my job was negotiating contracts with them, direct mail companies, BT Lazarus, as I recall, in Columbus. There's several large ones in Central Ohio, and we used, that was one of our many vehicles to attract recruits, both enlisted and officer, was basically direct mail, and as well as sending recruiters to the high schools and the colleges and the community colleges and the vocational schools and so forth.
Did you ever get any resistance from, I know that back in the 60s and 70s there was resistance to the
There were some college campuses, and perhaps even some high schools, I don't recall high schools, but some college campuses would send letters to our recruiters who would forward us to the area headquarters in Columbus, as far as we were concerned, asking us to either not have as many visits or perhaps maybe not come at all for a while, kind of they've had a demonstration or something. But I don't remember any great resistance, John. There was little pockets here and there. But we covered, we had 8 districts in 5 north central U.S. states, and so it was a large territory to cover. And, but I don't remember any, no hate mail or anything like that.
Well, then, Sam, I really thank you. Is there anything else you want to say? Got any tattoos you want to talk about?
No, not really. The military's been very, very good to me. I'd recommend it as a career in a young person. A grandson or granddaughter of anybody watching this tape, son or daughter, nephew or niece. I maybe have one regret that when I went in the service initially, my sister, who obviously idolized me, said that she wanted to follow in my footsteps, and I first put my foot down, and my dad put his first foot down. We basically dissuaded her from joining. In the late 50s, I think that probably was the wrong thing to do. Some women did not. There was a persona maybe attached to females in the service as perhaps being not the highest morals type of person in there, and that was not fair, because we should have never done that. She should have been able to make her own decision if she wanted to join the military. I wish I'd have kept my mouth shut, but I didn't.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, that was very enjoyable, John. Thank you.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
That's the